We're taking Maisie on the bullet train and hunting 13 lives as prey. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Becks Perfect, and this is Offscreen, your 7-day guide to everything movies.
Boom.
Welcome to Offscreen. Welcome to my very last Offscreen. It's been an absolute pleasure talking through movies with all of you guys each and every week, but I am bowing out because I'm off to go and have a baby. And so for anyone who didn't know that, that is news for all you guys. I'm off to go and, do motherhood instead of movies.
I hope they already gleaned it, because I hope you'd already told people, because I may have accidentally dropped it on TalkSport this morning, in which case I apologise, my dear profusely.
No, it's fine.
Sorry about that.
It's fine.
I've accidentally done that one. Sorry, it didn't occur to me.
That's okay.
One. But you know what? I'm really glad that it's this week. I mean, although it's earlier than I would like, obviously, I would have you recording this from the delivery room if we could. But obviously, at least you get to go on a great week. So let's start with Let's start with arguably the weakest one of the four this week. Having seen all four, arguably the weakest one of the four, and it's still not bad at all. So why don't you tell us, Ms. Final Week, Ms. Perfect, tell us about Maisie.
So Maisie is a documentary. It's rated 15. It's out today, about the UK's oldest working drag artiste. Now, if you were ever going to pitch me something to want to go and watch, this would be it. Right. It's the story of a guy called David who is 85 years old, lives in Brighton, and has this life as Maisie Trollette, and has been entertaining audiences, new and old, for many years. So on the opening credits, you'll see, signed autographs and letters to him from people like Lily Savage and, Cilla Black and amazing people from yesteryear.
Huge stars,
Huge stars. So he's had quite the life. And this is kind of documenting where he's at right now.
I've never told you about the time Jimmy and I were at the Vauxhall Tavern and some queen had been turned out because she was sniffing poppers, and she rang the police and told that they were doing drugs. And there was a police raid, and we were in full drag and everything, and then it's all quick. Get off it. So I got off the stage and went to the bar. The policeman, this is absolutely true, the policeman came and said to Breeder, the governor's wife, he said, "You get your mother upstairs," because she didn't want to see all what's going on. And this policeman had me in full drag, thought that I was the thing with his mother, and get your mother out. I thought, she.
So that's David Raven there, who is obviously also known as Maisie Trollette, is it? Trollette, isn't it?
Trollette, yeah.
I think. Trollette.
Yeah.
And first of all, it is a very interesting. It's a very interesting and quite charming tale, as you would imagine this would be. Like, as you say, from the concept alone, you know on the spot if you're going to enjoy this. If I say to you, it's Britain's oldest working drag artist, you immediately know just based on that log line. Like, do you know what? I feel like you could do anything with that concept. Like, just that could be a road trip comedy narrative feature. It could be a documentary. It could be a sitcom. You could do anything with that concept. It's all the potential in the world. So the actual film itself is something a lot more down to earth, a lot smaller, and a lot more personal, I think, than you'd really expect. It's more or less kind of a birthday celebration. It does feel a lot like someone's kind of more personal home chronicle.
Yeah, and this is the problem, I think. I said to you just off air before we started recording, you asked me how I felt about it, and I've said the words whelmed. Not overwhelmed, not underwhelmed, just whelmed. A lot of the format of this particular documentary happens where you kind of you see a bit of yesteryear or a bit of kind of home movies of him performing on stage, and then it kind of goes back to him talking to other drag queens in his lounge in Brighton, and they talk, or he's meeting the Guinness World Records oldest ever drag queen who's flown over to come and see him, and then it's a lot of conversations between the two of them. It's almost too intimate to watch if you're coming from an outside perspective.
Right, I absolutely get where you're coming from to an extent there. I think I felt it all just felt a bit subdued. It all felt a
Yes.
bit low energy.
Yeah, you want it
That
to be
was
camp
my
and you
thing
want it
with
to be fabulous. Yeah.
Well, you kind of do from the concept alone. And I'm aware that obviously that is not the day-to-day reality. It's not quite what I think. The film itself just felt lifeless.
Yeah.
The experience
Lackluster.
itself didn't. Yes, the experience itself felt like the whelming part of it. Like I feel like David Raven himself and Maisie Trellat herself are entertaining enough in their own right. However, I think this is catching their dullest moments, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Like this, and also in such an unimaginative and uninspired way. Like it feels like intimacy was the wrong way to take this, when I think something a bit more larger than life would have actually worked for it. Would have actually just given it that little extra kick.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think when you go in with the expectations that you're going to learn about the UK's oldest working drag artiste, you're going to want to see it fabulous and camp and
But I liked
nuts,
it though. I did quite like it. Charming.
Yeah, it lost my attention. I'll be completely honest. It lost the lackluster nature of it. Just kept me whelmed. Shall we move on?
Let's move on then. Let's move on to 13. Let's move on to a cave in Thailand to rescue 13 lives with Ron Howard. So if you told me, in the last, how long's it been now? I think it's been 4 years since the last time Ron Howard terrified me with his version of lighting in a cave. So I was not looking forward to post, Solo, a Star Wars story, was not looking forward to 13 Lives, in which this is Ron Howard's, Apollo 13 style. Here's a true life disaster. We're going to do it as a drama thriller with an all-star cast style take on the story of the soccer team stranded in the flooded cave in Thailand. I think it's 2013, is it?
Oh gosh, it may well be.
Is it more recent than that? Is it more recent than that? Yeah, we'll have to look this up.
I'll have to look that one up.
So the events here are dramatized. They are largely told. They're told from the perspective of the rescue crew, of the divers, who are here who are played on screen by Colin Farrell and Viggo Mortensen. Both of whom, by the way, are playing Brits. Because if you remember the reality of this, the divers are Brits. So Colin Farrell and Viggo Mortensen are both putting on their best Cockney accent. And Viggo Mortensen's casted Crames is just amazing. I love it so much. Oh, wow. And for the very, very first time, Colin Farrell actually convincingly sounds like a man named Colin. Anyway, they're the rescue crew. Joel Edgerton joins them along the way as he's the doctor who came up with what became part of an integral part of the rescue plan. And just as he did with Apollo 13, Ron Howard's taking us on another rescue mission.
You following what's happening in Thailand? Some kids stuck in a cave. We're on the list of rescue divers.
It's just a tourist cave.
It looks easy, but when it's flooded, it's impassable.
Takes a certain kind of mindset for the deep cave diving. You have to be a bit nuts.
They're very, very dangerous.
High water level and the low visibility.
Barely shoulder wide, pulling against very strong currents.
Close, but no cigar with that English accent. You can still hear a little twang of his Irish accent in there. But look, I know you kind of enjoyed this more than you expected to enjoy it. Is that right?
I did. I thought this was. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not Apollo 13. That's Ron Howard's true life disaster movie drama thriller masterpiece. But this is pretty solid. It's one of those that it has had a limited release in cinemas for the past week. It has been available, and it's on Amazon Prime from today. And but it is a huge scale movie. It's an example of the kind of thing that we're going to be discussing a lot in the coming weeks with regards Warner Brothers' recent announcements this week regarding, films and the state of streaming, etc., and how things are looking on the horizon for the industry. But I think 13 Lives is one of those films that is going to come up in conversation a lot, and I wouldn't be surprised to see this as one of those unexpected ones that bounces back in awards season. It sort of disappears, but then it just bounces back unexpected. There's always one from streaming that we always forget, and it just pops back in. That I could see that being this one somehow.
Welcome back to Offscreen. We're sticking with the big screen. Well, I say the big screen, a mixture of actual big screen, but big screen worthy movies is what we're talking about. And these two are the biggies of the week, I have to say. Prey is the one we're going to talk about. It's actually available on Disney Plus from today. This one, we would both encourage you to watch on the biggest screen you possibly can, I think, to get the best option. Unfortunately, for us with screeners, we had to watch it on our laptops, and it didn't quite do it justice. But boy, is this a film!
Speak for yourself. Did you not? I hooked it up into I hooked up the Apple TV. I got my little Disney app that they've got in the App Store. I had this baby on 85 inches. Still wasn't big enough.
Well, there we go.
I wanted to see this on IMAX.
Okay, well, definitely don't watch it on your laptop then, because that's not the way to do it. But Prey is the prequel to Predator, isn't it, Van? Do you want to take us through this?
Okay, so right, I would have considered this spoilers, but apparently they don't. So we'll go with what they don't consider spoilers. So this is the first hunt of the Predator on Earth. The very first Predator arrives on Earth around the land of the Comanche nation in, I think, is it Northwest? What do they call it? It's the Great Northwest Passage, I think it is. The Comanche Nation in 1719, where the Predator crosses paths with, wouldn't you know it, almost the badass 90s action movie version of a Disney princess, if you can imagine such a thing. Like, imagine Shane Black wrote Pocahontas. That's our lead here. And she's is she meant to be college age? Because I was trying to figure this one out, what her sort of age was. She desperately wants to prove herself as a warrior.
Yeah, so we're looking about 300 years or so into the past. So it's, although we talk about college age, she ain't going to college just yet, because that ain't happening.
Of course, I'm not saying she was off to Yale. I don't think she was getting a full ride to Yale or nothing like that in 1719.
Yeah.
It's taken
but
as
she's
read.
But she's certainly in definitely there to kind of prove her worth as part of her clan, her warrior clan, and she's not quite taken as seriously as she wants to be. And she starts discovering that there's something afoot that's bigger than a bear and much more sinister than that. And it all starts by seeing a rumbling grumble in the clouds.
Why do you want to hunt? Because you all think that I can't. I saw a sign in the sky. I'm ready. Maui Nita.
As my dear friend Rob Yeomans would say, coming out of this film, and I wish I'd seen this on an IMAX screen with him somehow, if we'd walked out of this film together, I can imagine what he would have said. He would have just immediately stood up out of the chair and gone, "Bosh, job's a good one," and then he would have left. And I can absolutely, that's what I felt the minute this movie was done. It's like, now that is how you do it. How we have gone since the very first Predator movie before getting one this good again. This is hands down the best one since the first one. And I don't say that lightly, because I don't actually think that they've all been terrible. I think Predators, the third one, was actually very good. I think that's a very underrated movie with Adrian Brody and his weird torso, side-shifting torso. But yeah, but there's been some stinkers. But there's been some, and two is not bad. but this is the best sequel, best one since the first. Easily.
Yeah, prequel, sequel, prequel. But this is not what you expect, because you kind of look at Predator and you kind of think Arnie, military, someone with a big belt full of bullets, walking through the jungle. This isn't it. The fact that they've taken a female protagonist, they brought it back 300 years. This is what makes it so different. And so if you were going to reimagine this, you have to go really like curveball on it, and I think that's what they've done, and it's worked an absolute treat, because she what's her name,
Amber Midthunder
is so compelling. She's so compelling to watch in this, and you might not have seen her in a lot before, but I think after this performance you're going to want to watch her a lot more on the big and the small screen.
Yeah, she's getting so many phone calls this weekend. Like, I honestly I do not envy her agent's family this weekend.
Yeah.
Like those poor children. Those poor children. They are the victims of Amber Midthunder's success this week. She's great in this. Like, she makes an immediate impression. The film plays a sort of a narrative twist with its tone, in a sense, because it's got a first act and a title drop that doesn't quite prepare you for what's going to come. But she immediately asserts herself, makes a real impression. There is also a tonal leaning into things like The Revenant and survivalist horror like that. That's a really smart choice. There's still room for this series to go if you want to do stuff with it. But otherwise, this can be left perfectly intact now as the perfect both prequel and sequel to the already perfect Predator. Speaking of perfect, but not quite perfect, this one was also a blast. Let's just talk about the actual IMAX release of the week. I feel like this should have just been sharing screen time with Prey in a just world. Becks, are you hype for the Bullet Train out of interest? Because I know you've not seen this one. Are you hype for the marketing?
I kind of am. Yeah, I am, and Brad Pitt, I always go and watch a movie with him in it. I think he makes really great choices. I think he's always good fun. I think that's the big pull for me. But it's an all-star cast in this, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it is, and then some. So there is a whole thing. Now, do start minding spoilers on reviews of Bullet Train, because there are a lot of things that can be dropped. There's a lot in there. It's a very Hollywood-friendly movie. So the idea here is, do you remember how well did you regard Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Bex?
So that's not quite my tempo. Only in the sense that not quite my tempo, J.K. Simmons, because it was more the what I wanted out of Tarantino than anything else out of that. So yeah.
Imagine the John Wick guys wanted to do a movie kind of like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, only instead of the film industry, everyone was a hitman. And instead of Hollywood,
you have my attention.
And instead of Hollywood, it was on a bullet train. And, everyone's got their own little stories. They're all interweaving. They're all intersecting. You've got a father who's, attempting to, who's attempting to save the life of his dying son, who's dying in a hospital, whose life is being threatened, has to commit an assassination. You've then got Brad Pitt at the center of it all. You've got a pair of brothers, as well, who, I think are there to retrieve someone's lost son, a drug lord's lost son, and a briefcase full of money. And then at the center of it all, you've got Brad Pitt, who's recently returned to work as a hitman following a mental health holiday in which he has taken to self-examination, introspection, and meditation. And he has been cursed with bad luck, which follows him in the form of a trail of bodies, literally wherever he goes. Like I say, it's all kind of like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but instead of dialogue, it's from the John Wick guys, so they're action sequences. It sounds nuts, but when you see it, it all makes sense, and it's actually brilliant. Here's a clip of a fight between Aaron Taylor-Johnson and Brad Pitt getting interrupted by a waitress.
I know who killed the kid. I couldn't give a rest.
I would love a bottle of water. That's the one. Thank you. Ta-ra.
You sure you want to talk this out?
Not particularly, no.
Okay.
So we've got a bit of, I feel like it's got a bit of Kill Bill kind of, action, humour.
Frenzied, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds up my tempo.
Yeah, if it's closest to anything, it's. Do you remember Smoking Aces from 2006? It was by Joe Carnahan.
Yeah.
Imagine a more popcorn-friendly, more crowd-pleasing version of that from the 87 North guys. Now, the 87 North guys, like John Wick and Nobody and Atomic Blonde, it's David Leitch. These guys know action. And, these are the guys who, study Michael Jai White movies and Scott Adkins movies and things like that. These guys know their Tony Jars and these guys absolutely know, the best action movie stuff in the world, as regards now. And this is them getting, certainly for the last few years. And this is them getting the chance to do an actual big budget studio Hollywood hangout movie. In IMAX scale, international scale, diverse international cast, Joey King hamming it up, as a British accented femme fatale, sort of tweenage femme fatale gone wrong kind of thing, in the high school years.
Yeah.
And then you've got Brad Pitt at the center of it all as just doing his Lost City bit, really. Just showing up and owning it like he did in briefly in Lost City. Just imagine that for a movie. I'm going to say that connection does come up again, but it's just wonderful fun. That's all I can say. You get the impression that this movie was a trade. Go on.
Yeah. I was going to say, this is your perfect Friday night film, right? This is, grab the popcorn, grab some mates, go to the cinema, watch this, and have a jolly good time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So this weekend, if you want a great old school, fun, flinging, frenzied, jam-packed, frenetic actioner, definitely go and get on the bullet train, preferably in IMAX.
Well, there you go. You can't get much bigger than Brad Pitt on a bullet train. So that was all of your big selections on the big screen. Now let's move over to the small screen, and we've got your 7-day guide to all the top movies that are top on your telly box. And we're kicking off tonight on 11:40 BBC One. We've got Young Guns. We've talked about Young Guns a number of times, I think, here. It always comes back.
I think. We've talked about Young Guns 2 as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I continually get confused between the two. The Blaze of Glory and everything is more more Young Guns too. But this is like, Emilio Estevez, Billy the Kid. It's kind of, it is what we love from a Western, from a, something that really sort of screams late 80s, early 90s. And it's good fun to watch again and again, isn't it, Van?
Well, it is, because it's a classic 80s, this studio movie in which, studios used to just randomly make Westerns. That's a thing that used to happen. They used to randomly make Westerns and put them in cinemas, packed full of all-star casts. And the whole thing at the time, to do this today, right, just to do something like Young Guns today, you'd have to get One Direction to star in a movie. Or what would be the modern equivalent? Would it still, because obviously it couldn't be. I mean, that's my point of reference for the last 5 years, for the last 10 years, is One Direction. But I'm trying to think, who you could possibly get that would compare to this now, who you'd have to stack a movie with to compare to Charlie Sheen, Kiefer Sutherland, Emilio Estevez, Lou Diamond Phillips. It was it was a huge rush. And then the sequel, they wound up somehow managing to do it again, getting people like Christian Slater in the mix. To boot, and Bon Jovi joining the crew. It was bizarre. Bon Jovi. But and you can see the terrific 1988 Christopher Kane directed Young Guns tonight at 11:40 on BBC One. Over to Saturday then, tomorrow. Becks, what we have got a clip for. I think you weren't a fan of this and I was. Is that right?
No, yeah, that's right. This is Steve McQueen's Widows, which is on 11:30 on Channel 4. Just, again, wasn't my cup of tea. I thought it was, I love Steve McQueen's work. Don't love the director himself. He's not the nicest of guys when you want to interview him. Yeah. But he is someone that, just a little bit sort of too self-assured, I think.
I've had those,
this movie for me is like, this movie for me, I love Shame, I love 12 Years a Slave, I love, all that. This just didn't really cut the mustard for me, but I know lots of people loved it. And, Widow's female heist, movie, it's what there were a lot of iterations of this style format movie, and this was obviously Steve McQueen's one. I'd rather go and watch the Oceans female movie than this one, if you're going to compare it to anything else.
My mum is a big Linda LaPlante fan, so I've had I've had copies of the book around me for decades in my life. So I was kind of weirdly curious to see how this would turn out in the hands of Steve McQueen. I rather enjoyed it. All-star cast includes Viola Davis, Liam Neeson, Danny Kaluuya, Robert Duvall, Colin Farrell. Robert Duvall incidentally gets my favourite moment of his entire career. It's also the best F-bomb. One of the best F-bombs in all of cinema for me in this movie. But Daniel Kaluuya, just terrifying. Saturday night, 11:30 on 4. It's Widows. Take it away, Viola.
Our go date is in 3 days. The night of the debate. Now, all of our work is worth nothing if we don't move this money and fast. We gotta start thinking like professionals. We're in business together. There's not gonna be some cozy reunion. After this job, we're done. We have 3 days to look and move like a team of men. The best thing we have going for us is being who we are. Why? Because no one thinks we have the balls to pull this off.
Well, there we go. From something that's not quite my tempo to something that most definitely is. It's on E4, 9 p.m. on Sunday, is Blockers. This movie I love. It's about a group of parents who are petrified about what their kids will get up to on prom night, and essentially become those parents that are trying to stop them at every occasion to lose their virginity. It is brilliant, and this is kind of one of those, I don't know how you describe this kind of set of movies that kind of falls into like this, Bad Neighbors, those kind of really great American sort of middle of the road but hilarious and quotable American Pie style movies that.
Yeah, they are kind of what's become of the Apatow movie now. They are the sort of current iteration, the current evolution, I think, of what was once the Apatow movie, because the Apatow movie kind of supplanted the Frat Pack movie, which was really the Vince Vaughn type movies, and then that sort of got supplanted by the rise of Apatow, and then you got the Seth Rogen sort of spin outs of that. And it's interesting that the Apatow era has actually led to things like The Boys and Preacher, but not a world I ever expected to be living in. But Blockers is also, it's directed by Kay Cannon, who directed, I think, the first Pitch Perfect. I think she directed the first Pitch Perfect as well. So it's quite a mainstream studio comedy, but I think for all intents and purposes, it's kind of more tangentially treated as a studio comedy, which is odd because it is quite an Apatow one. Leslie Mann being front and center does kind of give you the indicator, though, of where the roots of this comedy lie. John Cena,
so
though, absolutely stealing the show. I'll tell you a funny one though, Becks. The logo for this movie has a male chicken before the title, Blockers. I explained this to Paul Ross this morning. He didn't get it in the moment. And one of the producers whispered it in his ear as we continued talking. I explained it to him. So that I know that he had that word dropped into his head whilst talking to me live on radio. Just a nice moment I'm going to enjoy because of such a great movie, such a great moment to go with it. Speaking of just great moments in movies, I don't know if you ever got round to watching this one on Monday, Becks. 9 p.m. on 5 Star. You know what? This is your last episode. You've got to promise me now that you're going to go away and watch this finally. If you've not, Jason Statham fights a giant shark in the Meg. Boom. 9 p.m, 5 Star, Monday. Here's a clip. Bex, you gotta watch it this time. Let's listen.
She's coming.
Oh boy.
It was the largest shark that ever existed.
Thought to have been extinct for 2 million years. That thing's out there. We need to find it and kill it.
Why don't you just put a tracker on it? Did you guys ever watch Shark Week?
Yeah, I'll reserve judgment till Monday night when I watch it.
Remember when you hadn't watched John Wick? Longest time you hadn't watched John Wick, and I kept telling you got to watch John Wick.
Yeah.
Now you can't imagine your life without John Wick. Well, imagine your life. There's going to come a time when you can't imagine your life without Jason Statham fighting a giant shark. Anyway, what we got for Tuesday, Bex?
So we've got Stealth, which is at 9 p.m. on Great Movies. I'm not sure I've seen this one, and we're going to have to whiz through these next few ones anyway. But Van, take us through what this one's all about very quickly.
So, Stealth is the sci-fi pilot actioner starring Josh Lucas, Jessica Biel, and Jamie Foxx as a trio of hotshot naval aviators, like Top Gun types, who go toe-to-toe with an AI drone co-pilot voiced by Wentworth Miller that gets struck by lightning, goes evil, and starts trying to destroy humanity. It's directed by Rob Cohen, who did the first Fast and the Furious and Triple X. So he's kind of a functional early 2000s action director. This is actually pretty good, though. This is him working with some really impressive, and actually still quite impressive, like even today, visual effects. Well worth a watch. If you've never seen it, if you've got like a nice new TV that you want to watch something shiny and sexy in like HD on, whack this on. It looks really good. On to Wednesday, Stuber, which I think is actually a premiere, is on Film 4 at 11:20. This kind of got buried. I don't think there were any press shows for this. Dave Bautista is a cop who goes in for laser eye surgery, right? Gets a lead on a case that he's like hell-bent on solving, has got those like sunglasses on so he can't see, calls an Uber driven by a guy named Stu, hence Stuber, right? Stu is played by Kumail Nanjiani, and he effectively collaterals him, hijacks his night, makes him drive him around like following the lead on this case. Have a listen.
Hey! Uber?
Yeah. Hey, let me guess, you want me to drive you to all the Sarah Connors in the city?
Come on, start it up, let's go.
Oh, it's already started. Electric car. I call it silent but deadly.
Drive.
I'm Stu, how do you do? Can I get you some bottled water, some Canadian chocolates? It was one of those things where I thought I was getting 5 bars on Amazon, but I ended up getting
Koreatown, now.
Koreatown? Now. Hold on, I'm gonna bang a Yui here real quick. Nope, don't got it. Hold on.
You start to get the idea
Sounds better
of why
than what I thought it would.
Really?
Be from the initial description.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I think so. I think it's Kumail Nanjiani that's probably saving it a little bit, but it
He's
could
the
be one of
best
those
thing in it,
throwaway
far and
actors
away.
that could work. But like you say, you can. Yeah. So there we go. That's 11:20 p.m. on Film 4 on Wednesday if you want to check it out. We're ending the week on great movies again, and this is at 10:55 p.m. This literally is a great movie. This is Panic Room starring Jodie Foster and a very young Kristen Stewart as well.
Yeah.
This is kind of it's all set in a house that has a panic room. And you can imagine what happens. Something happens that causes them to have to utilize that panic room. Need I say more? Probably not. But it's very well performance driven, and it's a great movie.
I know we're pushed for time, but I need to point out, because this one just amuses me. I love how you say, it's just got a panic room, just as you do. The actual term.
I don't want to give too much away.
Actually, no. The actual term, panic room, actually got popularized by this movie. It wasn't a thing. Like, no one called them panic rooms until this movie turned it into a thing. I find that fascinating. It's a banger of a film. David Fincher, just some incredibly inventive camera work, cinematography. Jared Leto as a villain alongside Forrest Whitaker as well. Really great performances, really tight script. There's a little cameo in there by writer Andrew Kevin Walker, as well as the guy across the street that they can see. That's the guy that wrote Seven, and he did, in fact, write a version of Batman vs. Superman at one point in his life. True story. I love Panic Room. 10:55 on Great Movies on Thursday.
Thanks for joining us here back on Offscreen for our final ride on streaming and DVD and Blu-ray for you. So if you are not wanting to watch all of those 7 days of movies on the telly box and you want something more personal to you, then you can go and do it via your streaming platform. So we've got a few things available for you. Now, we obviously talked about 13 Lives in our first block today, which is obviously available on Amazon Prime. This is the big movie probably for Amazon Prime of this week. Ron Howard, Van very much enjoyed this. It's a cave. We got Colin Farrell doing a British accent with a slight Irish twang. What's not to
Casted Crames.
Casted Crames. Oh, well. Yeah, I mean, look, interesting story, I think. Interesting kind of take on it. If you're a big Ron Howard fan, like you said, it's not quite your Apollo movie, but it is something that is still going to be possibly that sneaky awards contender.
Yes, I think it's a really solid drama thriller. Like, it's a kind of thing, I mean, prior to me bashing him for Solo, it's the kind of thing that I would have said, yeah, that's the kind of thing you call Ron Howard for. You know, it's very much that movie. It's the kind of movie we used to say, that's what you call Ron Howard for. You know? It's nice. It's a nice return to form for him. It's nice to see him back on like Apollo 13 kind of form, even if not that quality necessarily.
Yeah, for sure. And then again, likewise, also out today is Prey, which is available on Disney Plus, as we've already obviously talked through. This one, further to what we kind of discussed when it came to reviewing this movie, just want to kind of build on it to kind of say, if you're looking for something with a strong narrative to it, and that's what you kind of like watching, this hasn't really got that, but not to its detriment. I think it works really well that you're kind of left out in the wilderness somehow with this movie.
I didn't realize until after watching the movie, and I was reading up on it, that Prey is a really hefty work of cultural authenticity. Like, they've really gone above and beyond. Like, it's actually authentically cast as well. Amber Midthunder is, an authentic native New Mexican.
Yes.
And I was really impressed by the detail that they went into on it, because there were things in it that I genuinely looked at and thought, that can't possibly be real. And then had to look it up. I'm like, oh, that's actually a real thing. Oh, okay, yeah. I was fascinated. It genuinely, it taught me stuff about, because the Comanche Nation, unless you've watched a lot of Westerns and things like that, you don't necessarily know about the Comanche Nation. It's definitely not something we get taught in British schools, at any rate. So I actually found a lot of incredibly fascinating, especially when presented in that Revenant-style badass warrior way that's kind of depicted in Prey. Hats off to Dan Trachtenberg for this movie, and Jeff Cutter for the cinematography. This thing is absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
I really loved Prey. If you're looking for a movie on streaming this weekend,
absolutely.
Just watch Prey. It's so good.
Can you tell Dan's a fan? So next up, we're going to take you a little bit back in time to 2004 on Netflix. They're dropping The Wedding Date, which is who is it? Deborah
Messing from Will and Grace, isn't it? It's Grace from Will and Grace.
Yeah,
or perhaps more famously and better known now as the mother in the god-awful made-for-TV remake of Dirty Dancing, starring Abigail. Is it Abigail Breslin? I think it was Abigail Breslin.
Ooh.
Yeah, bad as it sounds.
Oh no! Oh dear! Well, this was quite a well-loved movie. So I don't remember actually seeing this one, Van. So, which surprises me, because 2004, The Wedding Date, rom-com kind of movie. I thought it would be right up my street, but this one seems to have passed me by. What am I missing with The Wedding Date?
Yeah, your prime mark in 2004. So this was Deborah Messing. Deborah Messing is the uptight city single gal. She's trying to have it all. Doesn't have the best of luck in love, and she has to go to a wedding. She literally has to hire a date, and it's a rom-com. Kind of fill in the blank on that one. The date is, I think it's Dermot Mulroney.
Fill in the
gaps. It's Dermot Mulroney, just as he's starting to get the sort of salt and pepper thing going, the early stages of the salt and pepper Dermot Mulroney. So post My Best Friend's Wedding, Dermot Mulroney. That's on Netflix from Saturday. So that's your Saturday night date movie on Netflix there. One that I don't think not really worked as a date movie. I don't know. It's hardly tipping the velvet, is it? Benediction arrives on DVD and Blu-ray on Monday. The Siegfried Sassoon biopic starring, is it Jack Lowden stars in this one, Bex?
I think so. Benediction. Oh my goodness. Yes. And I think we were saying how quickly this is going on to DVD and Blu-ray. We weren't expecting this to kind of be such a quick move, but I think it's reflective of it. I wasn't a massive fan of this. I thought it was a bit sort of long-winded and sort of struggles, gets you to sort of struggle the way through it, and could have been much more engaging. But, you know, it's very, I can't remember what time, like, this is how forgettable it is. We've only reviewed this a couple of weeks ago. And it's, I think it's utterly forgettable because you kind of just you're not interested in the story, which shows how lacking in compellingness it has.
Let me refresh your memory and tell you this is the movie in which Jeremy Irvin from War Horse and the Woman in Black sequel shows up and actually demonstrates a personality. It's that one. He actually demonstrates a personality.
Yes.
It's gobsmacking. I was shocked. But alas, I think the one that's going to fly more heavily and more heftily off the shelves come Monday. We've got a clip for this one because there's going to be so many kids, I would imagine, wanting the DVD/Blu-ray to go alongside the previous one on their shelf, which I'm sure is very worn, given how often this movie seems to get play. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 comes to disc on Monday. It's the sequel to... Was it the most successful... No, it was the second or third most successful film at the global box office of 2020, thanks to the pandemic. And yeah, here Sonic the Hedgehog returns and must face off against Knuckles, voiced by Idris Elba. But of course, you can't have a Sonic the Hedgehog movie without Dr. Robotnik, and you can't have a Sonic the Hedgehog sequel without the one and only Jim Carrey.
Pitiful.
Who are you? Where are my manners? Sonic, meet Knuckles, my new BFFAE, bestest friend forever and ever.
Well, look, nobody needs to... It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that I wasn't a massive fan of Sonic the Hedgehog, the original movie, and I'm shocked that it did so well, let alone spawned a sequel. But I'm sure lots of people out there would love it, if not to see Jim Carrey's performance. Jim Carrey's Jim Carrey performance is what I was going to say, because it is so Jim Carrey in this. But yeah, that's the movie that's gonna do the business this week on DVD and Blu-ray. So that's nuts.
Totally. Yeah.
I wish I could say that I end my time with Offscreen on a high note, and unfortunately you've picked Sonic the Hedgehog 2 as the last movie that we're talking about.
I did want to send you off on a nice note. So first of all, we'll just say next week we are going to be talking next week. Zara will obviously be filling a chair from next week, in which we will be discussing presently the animated feature Where is Anne Frank? Eiffel, which I've only seen the poster of, and it looks like a sort of grand epic about the construction of the Eiffel Tower somehow. But I don't think any of it matters, because next week sees the release of Jordan Peele's Nope, which I got the pleasure of seeing in the US in this grand old movie palace with my fiancée, and it was just a great experience. I also love, by the way, that you can just refill popcorn in American cinemas, and so just refill sodas and popcorn. And so, like, come on, like, UK, we need to up our game on this. Why am I paying subscription fees to go to cinemas where I can't refill my stuff, man? What's going on there? Anyway, I want to send you off on a nice note, back.
Yeah, that is crazy.
I noticed just a little something last night as I was just randomly doing some paperwork, and I wanted to find out like what your very first episode was. So I looked it up, and would you believe it? It was 150 episodes ago from this very episode. This is Offscreen number 335, and your very, very first one was Offscreen number 185. The films we reviewed together your very first week, which, incidentally, that episode went out 21st of June 2019. I believe we recorded it in Soho together. And the films we talked about for that very first time together, we'd obviously worked together at Talksport, the first time on this show, were Toy Story 4, The Flood, The Captor, and the remake of Child's Play. So I'd like to say we definitely started as we meant to go on, I think. As far as that lineup goes, I think we started as we meant to go on there. Yeah, there was a little bit of our sort of repertoire right there. Let's get a big and flashy animated movie horror one. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and we've ended on a high with some great movies like Bullet Train and Prey. So from me, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone that's tuned in for my 150 plus episodes that I did. That's quite something. It's been an absolute wild ride taking you through all the top movies on your big screen, the small screen, and everything in between. I've absolutely loved it. Van has been the perfect co-host for this as well, and long may off-screen continue, and I'm sure whoever gets to fill my boots as I move from movies to motherhood is going to do a fantastic job. But for now, for one last time, I just want to say thank you so much. And I've been Becks Perfect.
I've been Van Connor, and we shall return.